Sonic the Hedgehog, you crazy blue speed freak. You've been going since 1991, just like I have, and it feels like we've grown up together. We've both had some ups and downs, and even with a fan base that really doesn't seem to give a damn about you, you keep rolling on strongly anyway. As it was the franchise that brought me into the gaming world and has surprisingly kept me here, I thought I'd give the series some love by counting down my personal favourite top 10 Sonic games. Now before I start, let me lay a few points and rules down. 1. Only games I've played, obviously. 2. All home console and handheld games are valid for the list, including some spin-offs that aren't chronologically cemented into the canon. You know, they're included in this franchise somehow, so we might as well include them to round it all off. Finally, and most importantly, this is my list, so if you have any complaints, please go and make your own. It's actually not that challenging. Anyway, with that out of the way, it's time for everyone to speed up, because...
You're too slow!
Launch. Primary engine ignition on. Beginning liftoff countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shuttle liftoff.
It would be awful of me not to include a handheld game on this list, mostly because all of you would end up bitching and complaining, and that just wouldn't get any of us anywhere. I was going to include the woefully underrated Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but I haven't played it in years and can't seem to shake the feeling that it was a bit of a mishmash of levels and music from previous titles. So I decided to go for a more recent title, one that stands up as more original and is for me the definitive Sonic title from a handheld console in my eyes. Sonic Rush. The DS had a bang of a launch title in Europe to its name. Sonic Rush had the advantage of utilising the dual screens of the console to expand the level design and create more expansive and varied ways of clearing a level. And the feeling of speed throughout is amplified thanks to the first use of a boost meter in the series, which makes running for the first time on a 2D scale actually mean something. The upped pace really gives off a sense of intensity that no handheld Sonic game has ever really given off, which makes it quite an enthralling experience when you really get absorbed in it. When you pull off tricks while flying through the air, it just makes it even more better. Visually, the implementation of 3D models onto 2D environments may seem a little outdated, especially when you consider that Donkey Kong Country did it in 1994 on very limited hardware, but it does add charm that normal sprites don't give off. The fully 3D boss fights give off good amount of detail and environmental scope, but the limited fighting area does make them uniform and quite basic. The 50% 3D scale models and the chibi models in the dialogue parts and the menus just give off that smaller Sonic feel that you really don't expect, but it's cute as hell. Great on a handheld console for the kids playing. Blaze's debut into the series is fantastic for a number of reasons. Firstly, it brings in a strong, driven female character who is not only key to the story, but secondly, through her pyrokinesis, provides a great opportunity for you to feel powerful when killing enemies, both massive ticks. Not to mention, landing randomly on Mobius gave Cream the Rabbit her first starring role in a game's narrative since Sonic Battle 3 years prior, and seeing the naive Cream befriend Blaze and see the development of both characters all the way through to the game's conclusion is a really nice bit of narrative storytelling there. The music, which combines beats and record scratches with remixes of 70s funk songs, really adds character and an upbeat sensibility to the game, keeping with the pace and creating a feeling of freshness that introduced a new form of 2D Sonic to the masses. And while the levels are fun, with enemy rooms and a variety of unusual boost-based mechanics working against you, it is annoying that you have to basically go through both Sonic and Blaze's story doing the same stages and bosses twice. It really makes the game come across as stylish and fun, but it lacks in real depth due to this. Thank God everything else provided to be a fun experience, otherwise it would have been difficult to warrant this game's place on this list at all. Sonic Rush is a fantastic game to play. If there's one thing that is associated with Sonic the Hedgehog, then it's speed. So logically, a Sonic racing game must have been an obvious step to take, right? Sonic has had a few in the past, either in car or on foot, and honestly, most of these games are terrible. Whether it's for their controls, level design, or just being shoddy altogether, all they do is make you question the point of their existence. So when Sega announced that they were actually going to release a proper Sonic kart racing game that actually looked half decent, you know what I was? I was extremely excited. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing came out and it actually was a surprisingly fun karter, with a nice drift mechanic, but you know what, it lacked a lot of depth in the single player modes. It's often said though, a sequel must improve upon the original, and boy did Sumo Digital and Sega do it here. With Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing transformed, they saw how similar to Mario Kart its predecessor was, and decided to show some ingenuity by making this more than just a bog-standard kart game, by implementing Wave Race Blue Storm-style boats, Diddy Kong Racing-style airplanes, and combining them seamlessly with the newly designed cars for each character to make a gameplay experience for a racing game that's hard to top in my opinion. While the physics for the car and plane are excellent, the boat needs more ironing out if they want to put any more sequels out there. Overall, the game has a gimmick, but it doesn't override the experience. And the fact that this was in development before Mario Kart 7 was made, and it's still called a ripoff, is just downright unfair. So for those of you who do it, well, you need to be ashamed of yourselves. Its character roster was largely expanded upon, and sure we lost some names like Billy Hatcher, the Choo Choos, and Ryo from Shenmue, but they did trim most of the fat. We did, however, in return for this new sequel, get some brilliant new characters. Mimi from Super Monkey Ball, Vice from Skies of Arcadia, Gilius from Golden Axe, Knights and Reala from the Knights series, and that's just to name a couple. You then get the third-party characters, IndyCar driver Danica Patrick, and of course, not to mention, a very nice inclusion, Wreck-It Ralph. I mean, it shows Sega's legacy and power at getting in third-party names, and it proved to be a major, major success. The levels were designed really well, incorporating new series and giving us layout changes during races as a result of these new mechanics coming into effect. Overall, each level feels vast and gives us a great sense of worth that when you've fought hard for victory, it all looks amazing and feels brilliant, especially with HD graphics making them look all gorgeous. It's a great experience to be in, high-octane madness with such beauty at the same time. The use of the car mods don't allow customization like Mario Kart, but does offer more options with noticeable differences in driving that will really test your skills. The multiplayer isn't confined to the versus mode for once, as you can play multiplayer just about anywhere, from Grand Prix to the main career mode. Speaking of that career mode, having a fleshed out and challenging experience with a wider variety of race and battle options is far more rewarding than just a simple GP mode. It does though have some problems, with some missions being hard thanks to the difficulty spike from A to S rank, kicking you in the nuts unnecessarily whenever you take it. And while it is generally expected that this is going to be hard, knowing that you've gotten this far in the game to allow it, it's just impossible to unlock those last few characters. Hell, the Reala and VMU for ages aren't mine yet due to this, souring the main mode for me. Also, if you try to use an all-star move on the Race of Ages course, you'll be off the track. Again, and again, and again. Someone really didn't think to auto-control on this at all, it just doesn't work as a mechanic. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed is a racing game with a lot to give. It's more than just a standard karter and has been rightfully fleshed out to reflect that. It's by far the best Sonic and Sega All-Stars title released, and if you want to pressure Sega to renew some franchises out there, give this game a go. You might discover something new. Or old, for that matter. Some of you are going to absolutely hate me for this. so shocked. I know this game didn't get the best reception from fans or reviewers alike, but does it really matter what one person at IGN thinks? This game, in my opinion, is great. Sure, it may not feel fast like a Sonic game is apparently meant to, but that's the point. This game has to be tackled at a different pace, as there are gameplay mechanics and level layouts that had to be adjusted to. Thorful's minion said it best. What's for the future of Sonic? Are they just going to continue rehashing their past greatness, or are they going to blow our minds?
Well, to answer your question, Thorful, they did the latter. They went for something completely different at Sega, and you know what? It worked.
Visually and musically, this game is absolutely stunning. The variety in music genres, from pop and swing to jazz and world music, coupled with some great HD graphics, makes this game ooze whimsy and charm. It just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And while the new level design is confusing at first, you will be well rewarded with your study of it. The more you play, the more you learn, and the better you will be. Too bad modern gamers can't figure that out nowadays. The same goes for the new parkour mechanic. If used right, you can breeze through levels. The new slower pace plays into the revamped platforming via numerous puzzle mechanics in some of the levels. It takes time to observe and go, so don't go all guns blazing. You're gonna fail if you do that, which does explain those checkpoints. This game is all about patience. The narrative sees Robotnik's desire to sap the world of energy to take over it at its weakest. It seems his evilness hasn't diminished yet, as he uses the Zeti to ensure his plan goes without failure. There's also substantial character development for Sonic, as he feels bad for realising how much he doesn't listen to Tails and jumps ahead without thinking. He understands what his faults are and what they've plagued him with in the past, and what it feels like to be all alone after everyone he knows is gone. Hell, there's even a super dark side that came out of Robotnik that I haven't seen in a very long time.
I'll get fat from eating your black hearts, you Eggman wannabes!
Whoa!
I will burn your world, you rebellious scum! I will destroy everything you love and make you rot!
Boss, your hands!
As long as I can still strangle a Zeti, my hands are fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on here. While the Zetia's characters are interesting as caricatures of society's personality stereotypes, such as a fat gluttonous pig, a wise elder statesman, a depressed teen, a vain and materialistic girl, a hyperactive and destructive untamed man-child, and a power-hungry leader in the quest of dominance, they're anything but interesting when it comes to their boss battles. They were easy to defeat, for the most part. Hell, getting to them highlights more of a challenge, which, when you think about it, is quite a bad thing. And when you combine that with an underwhelming final boss versus Robotnik, it shows that not a lot of thought was given to the complexity in the boss department, which is really disappointing. Another thing that upsets me is how the wisps were implemented into the game. It feels like Sega realised midway through, oh yeah, we forgot about the new gameplay mechanic we released 2 games ago. Let's just fill in the gaps and do what we can. As only the drill and rocket wisps were implemented correctly in my opinion, and we can thank the use of the Wii U gamepad for that. One final tick in this game's favour though is the Tails Tornado bonus level with the instrumental remix of his Sonic Adventure 2 theme song. You know what, I legitimately cried nostalgic tears at that, which might explain why this game is at a higher spot than it probably and rightfully should be. Overall, Sonic Lost World is an interesting turn in the right direction. While it does frustrate me at times, it gives me a good amount of fun in return. It's a polished experience with gameplay that keeps you on your toes at all times. Just the kind of experience that you want from any Sonic game.
You know what's amazing? Out of all the Sonic game countdowns that I've not seen my number 7 entry on any of them. Hopefully this is a good sign for me, because putting this on, I think I might be the first to mention this game in any positive light whatsoever.
the apparent Mario Party ripoff is on my list. Some of you are probably going to hate me for putting Sonic Shuffle on here, and I don't blame you for wanting to either. This is a game that had very little people playing it, and if they did, they panned it. However, in spite of that, my opinion will dictate that it is worthy of a place on this list. That's because, you know what? It had positives. Positives, everyone, that I'm fine with accepting. Playing this game without the AI is crucial to the most enjoyable experience. With 4 players by your side, this game is an absolute blast. And while this may be true with many party games, your company will inevitably decide whether this is fun or not. Some find this game repetitive and boring and overall a shell of a more popular franchise. However, my brother and 2 best friends and I, we just don't seem to give a damn and play it anyway because we enjoy the ever-loving crap out of it. Even though the mini-games are at times frustrating, and I'm looking at you, Snake Jump, there are an adrenaline rush with 4 humans playing at the same time. The reactions, of course, are absolutely priceless. 6 for safety, anyone? Unlike others, I actually find the card-based gameplay of the board pretty great, all because it actually requires you to strategize your moves and think about what you're doing. Mario Party's luck-based dice mechanic isn't just cheap, but to me ruins the experience. Personal control is vital and gets props from me. The board layouts vary in size and theme, creating their own unique challenges. While the board's quests aren't for the most part compulsory, they do offer some added difficulty with time limits to further that strategy. Do you go for the precious stone, or try to save that dolphin from dying? The choice is yours. Or when someone else uses a damn force jewel. Ah! That being said, no matter the amount of sugar I coat this in, it is still a bad game. The before mentioned AI can make a single player or even a multiplayer experience a chore. Even when selecting a difficulty, they will either play to it like they should, or go completely against it and do something completely ridiculous. You just don't know what you're going to get, and it makes the game lack that on the same level element from the start. For the most part, the music is highly repetitive and gets on the nerves fast. The story mode, incredibly, is the most infuriating part of all this. It is of course how you unlock new characters, by amassing tons of rings to make the multiplayer experience just more enjoyable. So in order to make the multiplayer more varied and fun, you need to slug it out against unpredictable AI, including boring, poorly animated cutscenes, and going through a story that just makes me as a viewer and a player have no empathy for the characters that I'm helping. You couple that with a poor script, and it's just not worth it knowing how many rings you need to amass to do it. Sonic Shuffle, you know, it might be a bad game, but it's been so much fun over the years for me. 13 plus, in fact, that when played just for fun with no story mode, it redeems itself proudly. And no matter how many people call it a rip-off or awful, for me, no matter what is said, it is fully deserving of its place on this list.
I hated this game for so many years. It's hard to believe it's even on here. But I can't believe I'm about to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, my number 6, Sonic Heroes.
Yeah, you heard me right. This game has gone from one of my most hated to one of my most loved. It took 11 to 12 long years to do it, but I have to give credit where credit is due. Sega made a good game here. This game introduced the much-debated Triforce team-placed gameplay, combining the multi-character gameplay of its predecessor with some simplistic strategy, and to have it fully implemented into each level in the game really highlights how fleshed out it is. While it did only last for one game, they really left a mark with it. And you know what? I love having multiple characters to play as in a game, so to have all of them in their teams play an active role in the plot just makes it even better. I mean, we saw the awesome and unexpected returns of Chaotix and Metal Sonic, along with the 3D debut of Cream, and because I'm a fan of all 3 of those characters there, it was a major plus. However, we did get the introduction of the E123 Omega, which did nothing for me, and the reintroductions of both Big and Shadow. I could have done without those, Sega, thanks. The level design in this game is well done, as many of the levels from first to last all have scope and feel massive, which is good for a Sonic game as it doesn't compromise on size, another tick in the box. The music is very good, to be expected by this point, and the controls, while solid, are quite loose, which does contribute to a lot of deaths. In spite of the positives, I do have to stress that even with the difficulty differences in how each team plays, with Rose being easy, Sonic being normal, Dark being hard, and Chaotix being some kind of item collection or some different variant of gameplay, it's very tiresome to complete all of the stories when they don't alter from level or boss structure. There's just no derivation from the Seaside Hill to Final Fortress formula, and having to do it 4 times? God, it just doesn't feel right. The same goes for those bosses. While they are fun, they just get irritating after a while. And you know what? The final boss, though, it puts that repetition to shame. While most of the voice cast gave it their all with some great performances, including the last by the late Dean Bristow for Robotnik, on what turned out to be their last hurrah, I do have to single out one noticeable flaw. There were so many dialogue repetitions in almost all the levels that hearing that "look at all those Eggman's robots" line all the time just made me want to run up a wall!
Eggman's robots! Those are Eggman's robots! Look at all those Eggman's robots!
Shut up, Tails!
Sonic Heroes is a game that still feels fresh and gives me a challenge after all this time, showing that time itself can be a wonderful healer when opinions are raw and burning. And while it still may get some unnecessary hate, it's certainly better than some of the games from both the 2D and 3D generations. So next time you go slagging this game off, do keep that in mind that there are many games in this franchise that are worse.
Now, Regina, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm making this countdown. Do you think I should give the guys who loved the Mega Drive and Genesis a bit of a bone? Because I haven't included any 2D console game on this list so far. They need some representation, right?
Yeah, you should throw them a bone. Without the original games, there would be no 3D games.
Oh, okay, hold on. To please all of those guys, all those fans from pre-1998, here's my choice. You happy now? Huh? You happy?
It wasn't Sonic 3 and Knuckles or the original? I'm not impressed. You disappoint me.
I just can't win. Oh, God. I just can't win.
Out of all of Sonic's original adventures, I've had more fun with this one. The others are just, well, they're irritating to me. They're either too difficult or I just suck at them. You be the judge. Sonic 2 introduced many core gameplay mechanics and features that have become a standard in the series, and it's no wonder that it went on to sell 1 million copies. I've already mentioned earlier, but a sequel must improve on the original, and this did by a long shot. When these improvements include a 7th Chaos Emerald, Super Sonic, the all-important Spin Dash, half-pipe special stages, Time Attack, the standard 2 level boss flow, and most importantly, Tails, you know you're onto something. You couple all that with the expanded level design and a higher emphasis on speed than its predecessor thanks to blast processing, whatever that is, then you have a killer 2D platformer. The music is catchy as hell and fits the style of the levels perfectly, giving off a nice vibe in the process. And while they aren't as complex as counterparts from subsequent sequels, they still pack a punch today. Chemical Plant and Metropolis zones, I'm looking in your direction. While there were many improvements, I can't say all of them were positive. The water physics, for example, they still and feel and look like a hedgehog going through treacle, albeit a bit faster. The bosses, for the most part, were unimaginative, and yeah, they were a nice challenge though, but could have been a little better. While the level design is varied, there were some choices I do have to question Sega on. Firstly, why did Metropolis Zone contain badniks that are now lodged deep within my own personal hell? And secondly, whose idea was it to put that pit in Mystic Cave and that not even Super Sonic can get out of it? Damn, it's such a stupid idea. While the original game was revolutionary and gave us a gaming icon, this was the game that defined and made him. Sure, Sonic 1 sold more and gave us this little hedgehog that we love. Without the improvements, though, that this game, Sonic 2, gave us, he wouldn't have been more than a flash in the pan and not the rival to Mario that we still see him as today. And with that in mind, I am so thankful.
No way! I can't believe this!
Yeah, this might be a shock to some of you to find Sonic Adventure the first game I ever played in such a low spot considering its value to me. However, when I look at this game without nostalgia goggles on, there is just too much wrong with it as the game has not aged well. It has very loose controls, the bosses don't pose much of a challenge, the syncing of the dialogue to the models wasn't done smoothly, and the camera controls are very jerky. Hell, they even poked fun at it before the first level starts. Who does that? There's also a lack of replayability, with the B and A rank missions leading to more frustration than happiness, the usefulness of the adventure fields gets removed, and the Chow Garden is lackluster and repetitive. Once the story's over, there's just nothing left, and that really saddened me upon realization that I never got anything outside of the core story, and you know what, that is really disappointing. However, this game did give me a lot to be happy about, right from a 7-year-old right now to me at the age of 23. The music is phenomenal, with each song's melodies being catchy as hell, fitting with the level themes and introducing us to character theme songs on Crush 40 for the first time. Gotta be happy about that. It also offered up a lot of variety in gameplay, with Sonic's platforming, Tails' racing, Knuckles' hunting, Amy's puzzle-based, robot escaping, E102's shooting, and Big's fishing. In 1998, we had Sega Bass Fishing on the same bloody console. We did not need this in here. Anyway, in a very strong narrative, the history of the Chaos Emeralds and the Echidna tribe was brought to the forefront, introducing characters such as Chaos and Takal, giving Tails some huge character development as well in the process, making itself something that showed the lengths of what the franchise had to do in order to tell a story now it had entered into the full 3D reign for the first time. The level design is varied, showing that 3D complexity that future games would be known for. The visuals, while not that much to shout about, really do look good in HD though. On top of all that, it also offered new mechanics such as the jumping platform, lightspeed dash, Knuckles' digging ability, transportation rockets, and Amy's Pico hammer. It's no wonder that Sega wanted the first fully 3D Sonic game to set the benchmark. This game, after so many years, is still a joy for me. It's been an ever-pleasant in my life since 1999, and I will never get sick of it. In spite of its faults, I will always have a space in my heart for Sonic Adventure. That you can bank on. Where do I start with Sonic Adventure 2, a game that is so well lauded and respected, it's just hard to fathom where to begin. I better start off with my favourite part about the game, the plot. It had a much darker and more intense narrative than its predecessors, and mostly from what we're used to in this series, containing character death, emotional scenes, themes of grief, reflection, unkempt desire, and the collective will of friendships and unity. Does that sound about right to you? Well, it's definitely the most cinematic of what we've gotten from a Sonic game so far, even if the cutscenes don't do it justice due to, at the time, inferior technology. As well as introducing very important narrative canon characters such as Gerald and Maria Robotnik, it also gave a rise to Rouge and Shadow as playable characters in the series. The Chaos Emeralds add another thing to its lengthy CV with the debut of Chaos Control as well. Sonic Adventure 2 created something that other Sonic games have failed to replicate since, an emotionally strong narrative. It's understandable from my perspective, and those who shower this game with praise, why it is the holy grail of Sonic narratives that is yet to be surpassed. And also, along with those new characters, we get, for the first time, a canon playable Dr. Robotnik, as well as 3D multiplayer, an improved light dash, grinding, somersault and bouncing mechanics, and the ability to stay underwater without drowning, to all make this game look much bigger than its predecessor Sonic Adventure. The great music that made its predecessor noteworthy is also kept going, adding rap, burlesque pop, industrial and pop rock to the hard rock mix, and creating a vibrant soundscape that you just want to marvel over. Level design from the previous game was kept on in scope with many new and varied areas to explore, with Sonic venturing into space for the first time in 3D. They expanded the Chow Garden immensely, making it much more worth it to raise your Chow, and making it a lot of fun in the process too while I'm at it. Adding new elements such as Chaos Drives, a kindergarten for naming them, buying items and teaching them new abilities, Hero and Dark Chow evolutions including 2 Chow Gardens to go along with them, and finally, of course along with Chow Racing, a new thing called Chow Karate. This is one of the great factors of replayability this game has, along with that damn ranking system. Sure, they might have been quite challenging to do, but you know what? It made you feel fantastic when you did it. It was glorious. This game also had more levels than its predecessor, with 43 in total, which gives much more playtime out of it. That being said though, many of the designs and locations that these levels were based in were reused. It's hard to take this game seriously when it tripled the level amount, but did nothing but change the colour textures, the music, and apply different game mechanics to make them seem different. I will say though, this game did have a final level and a proper 2-stage final boss. That being said, the BioLizard is rage quit worthy. Hell, I even made a demotivational for it. This game, no matter how well fleshed it is, left me with a bitter taste in my mouth because of these 2 factors: poor voice acting and cutscene audio quality. People don't seem to notice that the voice acting in this game is terrible, all thanks to former Sonic VA Ryan Drummond, who stated that he wasn't given any emotional cues for how Sonic should sound. Now that is shoddy. This craptacular audio cake is topped off with the voice acting getting crowded out by the music. So the subtitles must be a godsend, right? No, because they move too fast for you to keep up with, which just makes it an absolute chore. Sonic Adventure 2 is a superior game to Sonic Adventure 1, but it isn't perfect. It's a fantastic game, do not get me wrong, but it is overrated. No matter what it is said though, it has left me with more fits of anger than I could count. But this is highly regarded for a reason, and I have to give respect where it's due that with multiple ports and consistent praise, it still holds itself up well after so many years. If there was any way I could describe Sonic Generations for you, it would be this franchise's unabashed thank you to its fans for 20 years of service, and boy does it deliver. By using a time travel narrative right this time, Sonic has been put back in time where Robotnik seeks to destroy his very existence. I'll talk about dark. He then teams up with the 1991 version of himself, speeding through various levels from his history to stop Robotnik from achieving his ultimate plan. You know what, I have to say, when it comes to reconfiguring and making these older levels into a new era, they didn't leave any stone unturned and any area for innovation unmatched. The 2D levels are puzzling, complex and fun, while the 3D levels ramp up the speed to 11 as you blast through a minefield of enemies, open areas and obstacles to reach the goal. The controls are refined to near perfection, with the homing attacks lock-on proving extremely accurate. Not only are these levels extremely well designed, but the boss battles were also as well, featuring old rivals and famous final bosses that still prove a challenge. The remixed music of previous level themes are wonderful, really adding some power to them, making you realise just how well composed some of them were originally. And while the soul of the songs hasn't gone, they do take some new life here and get back into your head with the modern production and full surround sound. The use of the minigames and events to open up areas are used effectively to give the game depth while providing a substantial challenge in some cases, as well as putting Sonic's cast of colourful characters to good use. It even includes an unlockable art gallery, a soundtrack library that encompasses songs from multiple games across the history of the franchise, as well as offering the original, Sonic the Hedgehog, as a full unlockable. Therefore, all those retro fanboys from the Mega Drive Genesis era can be amazed and happy, while the newer fans can experience what makes all those fans just lose their minds completely. If there was any criticism that fundamentally stops this game from getting to number 1, it's simple. There's a stark lack of anything new. Sure, everything is extremely polished, it works well, and gives a Sonic fan all they could desire and dream of, but that's just it. It feels like Sonic Team and Sega just wanted us to enjoy what they've given us and feel grateful for all the good times, not having us crap on it all the time. There's no innovative mechanics, no effective use of his friends in the story, and there's no depth in the narrative, and also no DLC to keep the game going. It was just fan service and nothing more. However, that doesn't stop it from being a blast to play. Other criticisms that spring up are the power-ups, which I never saw the use of, the hidden trophy room being something that should have been integrated as prizes for fulfilling certain objectives and not just being left as an Easter egg for the internet to find. The hub world's linearity would have been better if put to good use, and the Time Eater final boss is so punishingly hard that I've never had to look up a boss walkthrough before, but this time I thought, you know what, I'm dying too many times, I've got to do it. God, it was awful. It's my nightmare fuel, everybody. Finally, including the intro from the reveal trailer would have been nice, as just going straight to the start screen upon loading this game up makes it feel quite flat. Sonic Generations was a fantastic 20th birthday present to our favourite hedgehog, and a great way to fully get me back into the series after near half a decade of not playing the games fully. This was a fantastic way to show what Sonic is as a gaming IP, and why even when he seemed down and out, any game can come along and rejuvenate the product. Speaking of which... After the abomination that was Sonic 06, the meh storybook adventures, and the disappointment that was Unleashed, Sonic needed a massive kick up the arse, a lot of refinement, and something brand spanking new to change things up. In 2010, they started the new decade off, and a new deal with Nintendo, with a bang. It took me a couple of years after to play this proverbial kick up the arse in question, and I've loved it enough since then to call it my number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, my favourite Sonic game of all time is Sonic Colors. Let's just start with the visuals. My god, it's so vibrant and pretty, my eyes are just going to bleed out rainbows! Seriously though, even with the lack of HD, the Wii puts across graphics impressively. You think the Wii has poor quality? Just look at this! With a pantheon of colour to throw at us, the amusement park setting feels just right to project this kaleidoscope of colours and lights at the player. The music is just gorgeous, giving off the aura of something magical, just like the setting would want us to feel. We're in a place where humans would lose themselves. The best of the bunch, though, has to be Aquarium Park Zone. Playing any of those levels makes you feel just so warm and fuzzy while in awe of what you're playing, hearing, and seeing. Just look. If I ever need to see what a great Sonic game feels like, I know where to find it. Here. Even with the guise of an intergalactic amusement park, I do love the story of this game. The narrative really does make Dr. Robotnik out to be an evil bastard again. Enslaving an alien race to use the power of their souls to control the Earth via mind control? Man, that's certainly a lot better than destroying the Earth using Supersonic, right? I am annoyed that only Sonic and Tails went on this adventure though. It could have been very fun to have this trip go awry and have Robotnik use his mind control device to put all of his friends against him. You know, it'd be good, they control all the bosses, it'd be brilliant. The new Whisk mechanic is a refreshing addition that the franchise needed to spice things up. They're very well implemented into the gameplay and level design, creating some intriguing platforming in the process, while also creating some real difficulty spikes in some cases. Not to mention, if you've unlocked a few and go back to some earlier levels, you can breeze through them even quicker to achieve those wonderful ranks, and of course some lives in the process. The daylight levels of Sonic Unleashed introduced the modern boost and drifting mechanics, but fast forward 2 years and the controls of the fast-paced third-person sections have been tightened, and of course the transitions from 3D to 2D have been smoothened with very little problem to be seen. Also, for the first time, Sonic can actually swim! The water physics problems of the past are dead! Yes! Anyway, while the gameplay offers some rich improvement, it's also where most of the game's faults are. While we are in space, and we'd expect it, surely Robotnik should have made the park's gravity a little better. The floaty nature of the airborne gameplay, combined with how quickly we fall, gives off a challenge of control and finesse that just irks me to the point of rage quitting. The boost power-ups are too infrequent, and not being able to get a life upon collecting 100 rings is just damn near frustrating. The jumping trampoline levels, though, they also have a new place in my vision of gaming hell. Are you a Wii owner? Are you a Sonic fan? If you've answered yes to both of those questions, then I recommend that you buy this game. This is an example of what the Wii was capable of and a showing of what Sonic at its best can be. Every time I go back to it, I'm enjoying it even more, and even though some of the levels drive me insane, I couldn't be happier to find a Sonic game that will not stop surprising me and make me feel so joyful. It shows off some of the best level design, music, feeling of speed, and all in all the most fun I've ever had in a Sonic game. Sonic Colors will remain my number one for a long time to come, and it will take something absolutely wonderful to top it. I've been Freddie Thomas, you've been People Watching, this has been a Top 10 Sonic Game Countdown for the CC Network, and I'll see you guys next time.